The Boeing 737 MAX is coming back. And what does it mean for all of us? Watch this video to find out more. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Debargya, and this video is about the Boeing 737 MAX, the same aircraft that was involved in two major crashes. On your screen, you see the two aircrafts that had crashed. On your left is Lion Air Flight 610, which crashed on October 29, 2018, killing all of the 189 people on board. On your right is Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, which crashed on March 10th, 2019, killing all of the 157 passengers on board. And these two incidents together have claimed 346 lives. So the purpose of this video is not to analyze the two crashes that I just spoke about, but we are going to look at this return of the 737 MAX from Boeing's perspective and from passengers' perspective. So we will look at the bigger picture here. Here are the contents of the video. We'll start with the evolution of the 737 family. Boeing launched the 737 originals in the year 1965, and the originals comprised of the 737-100s and the 200s, followed by the Boeing 737 Classics, which were launched in the year 1979, and these were the Boeing 737-300s, 400s, and 500s. Up next, the Boeing 737NG, and most of these are still in service. These were launched in the year 1993, the Boeing 737 600s, 700s, 800s, and 900s. Last but not the least, the Boeing 737 MAX. Now, Boeing promised up to 20% more fuel efficiency in this aircraft. And the first commercial flight of this aircraft was on May 22nd, 2017. But by March 2019, the entire fleet of the Boeing 737 MAX was grounded. Now, before we proceed, just a quick hack. The next time you're on a Boeing 737, I'll tell you how to identify a MAX. There are two things really. First is the engine design, which is very similar to that of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. This design helps in reducing the sound produced by the engine. The second would be the dual feather winglets. So these are called the 737 MAX Advanced Technology Winglets, or the AT winglets. And if you look at it, it's got two sections to it. The wingtips, they kind of go up and down in layman language. So it's got a very unique wingtip, and the engine design is also unique. Okay, moving on. Why did Boeing introduce the 737 MAX? And I have an interesting story to tell here. There are two major aircraft manufacturers, namely Airbus and Boeing. Now, when one company decides to launch a new product or upgrade its existing product, it becomes a kind of a compulsion for the other company to launch a rival product or update its rival product. So this is what happened in the case of the 737 MAX, when in 2010, Airbus decided to announce an update to its most selling single aisle aircraft, the A320. And Airbus decided to put larger engines on this updated version. Also, this aircraft would be 15% more fuel efficient than the previous version. And most importantly, the cockpit would not have too many changes. So pilots of the previous version would be able to operate the newer version with minimum training. Now, the one on your left is the Airbus A320 current engine option, or the CEO. And on your right is A320 new engine option, or NEO. You can see the size of the engines. The ones on the NEO are quite big. They're much larger engines than the previous version. So this was one of the major changes. in the A320. Now, Boeing's response to this was to update its most selling product and the rival product, more importantly, the Boeing 737 NG, which is a narrow body single aisle aircraft as well. However, there was a problem for Boeing. Now, the two images on the screen, one on your left is an A320 current engine option or the previous version, and on your right is a 737 NG. Boeing, if you see, the 737 is a lot lower than the A320. The ground clearance is less in the 737, and that was the problem. So, in order to update the plane, Boeing would obviously need to put a larger engine in that little space that you see. And if you look at it closely, the previous engine is already flattened out. The bottom, the base of the engine is flat in the 737. So it's very difficult to put a larger engine right there in the same position. So Boeing decided to change the position of the engine. Boeing decided to place it, rather move it up on the wing. So move the engine up on the wing. There you go. This is the picture of a Boeing 737 MAX. And if you look at the engine, it's slightly up. You know, if the engine is actually, the top of the engine is crossing the wing, it's above the wing. And this caused a problem. And the problem for the MAX was due to the design. When the plane was in full thrust, the nose of the plane would point too high. It would go upwards because the engines are placed slightly higher, and larger engines slightly higher. This is pure physics here. I will use this model. This is not a MAX model, but it serves the purpose. So in full thrust, the plane would the nose would point too high, which would cause the plane to stall. A position of stall is when the plane is not able to accelerate any further and it kind of falls because the nose is too high and it's not able to move forward. So yeah, that was the problem. And in order to address this problem, Boeing decided to put a software, and this is what went wrong for Boeing 737 MAX. Boeing decided to put a software called the MCAS, which is Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. So what does the MCAS do? Let's understand that. Again, I'm going to use this model to understand the MCAS in very simple terms. So the MCAS, the primary purpose is when the nose of the plane is pointing too high, or when the angle of attack, this is the angle of attack if you try to see. So when the angle of attack is above a certain threshold, it uses the horizontal stabilizer. This is the horizontal stabilizer. It uses this horizontal stabilizer to bring the plane back down. So when the nose is too far high, it would bring the plane back into its position. And the MCAS would get its data from a sensor, which is in the front of the aircraft somewhere here. So that's what the MCAS basically does. So in the two crashes that we saw, why did the planes crash? Because the sensors were reporting wrong data. The sensors were reporting wrong data. That means the angle of attack was probably fine. It was not beyond the certain threshold. So, which means the plane was actually not in this position, but it was somewhere like this. But the sensors were reporting that the plane is like this. Because of which the plane was actually like this, and the MCAS system used the horizontal stabilizer to bring the plane down. And you can imagine what happens next. The pilots were unable to regain complete control of the planes, and yes, it went into this kind of a deep dive. So that was the problem with the MCAS system. The sensor did not report correct data in those two crashes. Now, I'd like to take you back to a section of the video where I said that minimum pilot training was needed in case of the Airbus A320. Right? So even in Boeing, for the Boeing 737 MAX, Boeing decided not to make too many changes in the cockpit so that a pilot of the 737 NG would be easily able to fly the 737 MAX. And here, I think the problem was that the pilots were not given simulation training. They were only trained on iPads, and uh, the pilots basically did not face all the challenges associated with the MCAS system. They did not face the outlier scenarios and other associated challenges. So pilot training was a big gap in the 737 MAX. Now, I'd like to take you back to the Lion Air flight crash. Again, we are not analyzing the crash, but this is just the altitude and speed graph of that particular flight. For this video, let's ignore the speed graph, the one in orange, and we will focus on the altitude graph, the one in blue. Now, if you look at the graph, the plane took off at 2321, and roughly at about 2100 feet, the MCAS system started giving wrong inputs to the system. So it was supposed to go high in the air, but the MCAS system, using the horizontal stabilizer, brought the plane down, started bringing it down from 2000, then again at 5000, and see the number of times the MCAS system got activated. The sensors were reporting wrong data, and the MCAS system, the MCAS software continued to bring the nose down, and the pilots finally lost all control of the plane at around 4800 feet, and it unfortunately crashed. So we've talked about what really happened and what went wrong, but as we know, the Boeing 737 MAX is coming back, and Boeing obviously has worked on all these shortcomings. So let's see what has changed in the 737 MAX. So there are essentially four things that Boeing has said have changed on this plane. Three of them are actually related to the MCAS software itself, and I will just quickly run through those changes. The first one is there used to be just a single sensor in the 737 MAX, which used to report data to the MCAS software. So now Boeing has incorporated multiple sensors, I think 2 sensors there, and the system will only action on those inputs if the data collected from both the sensors is the same. So if the data is different, if one is faulty and the other is fine, the software will not take those inputs. The second point is that the MCAS system will activate only once. You saw in the Lion Air graph, and this is the reason why I showed it, the MCAS system activated multiple times. Multiple times it brought the nose down. So here, going forward, Boeing has said that the MCAS system will activate just once. And the third point, very important, something that I truly stand for, is that the pilots will have the rights to override the inputs given by the MCAS system. So I think that is very important. And I've also made a video on the importance of the human factor in a world of automation. I will link it somewhere. It's about Southwest Airlines 1380. So coming back, the pilots will be able to stop the MCAS from operating. So that's a critical change. And the last change is that the training regime, the pilots training, is going to be different. They will have a simulator training. Pilots will have to be certified on the 737 MAX before flying, so no more iPad trainings. There will be a proper simulation training, and they will be certified. They will face all the challenges that we spoke about some time back, and only then will they be able to fly the 737 MAX. So that was about it from me in this video. Just a quick one before I go. When is it coming back? So Boeing is testing the 737 MAX at this point in time. It is expected to be relaunched rather, in the next couple of months after the approvals, the FAA approvals, etc. So we can expect the MAX by, say, the end of 2020 or early 2021. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video adds some value, and do check out the other videos that I've created. I'll link them somewhere or in the description. And yeah, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you so much for watching.